Pretty bad.
Yeah. It's just jerks.
It's
No.
summertime.
Okay. Oh, are we ready? Welcome to the March 19th, 2019 regular board meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. The meeting is hereby called to order. Will you please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Andrews,
Present?
Vice President Mason,
Present.
Director Lassane,
Present.
Director Mitchell,
Present.
Director Nankar,
Present.
Student Representative Tran.
Present.
Thank you. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce this afternoon's agenda?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Consistent with the plans established at your 2018 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is this evening a segment for routine business, a segment for board comments, a segment for recognition, a segment for the superintendent's report, a segment for strategic progress reporting, a segment for new business, and a segment for upcoming agenda items. In addition, following your meeting, you plan a closed session for this evening. Following the publication of the agenda to you, I needed to make a couple of adjustments. Item 7.6, approval of the minutes of the March 6, 2019 special meeting. This is going to sound a little bit weird because it is. We added your minutes for the meeting because we didn't add your minutes for the meeting because you had two meetings and we thought the minutes were in there, but we needed to have both sets of minutes. So you have the morning meeting and then the afternoon meeting, okay? Item 7.14, adoption of Resolution 1194, authorization to issue contracts to administrative staff was corrected because we had a formatting and a spelling error. Apologize for that. And item 9.1, the superintendent's report will be updated during the meeting, as is customary for our regular meetings. Of course, the board may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. This is not, however, the time in your agenda to request items to be removed from the consent agenda. In all other respects, the agenda is as it was originally published to you, and we ask your approval thereof.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Nankar to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Agenda is adopted. We'll move on to section 5.0, recognition. This evening we have Thriving Schools Honor Roll Award. And Rondi Seberg will introduce the folks from Kaiser Permanente who are here to give the award.
Where's my recipient? Come on up. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to come and talk to you. We were originally scheduled to have this award bestowed on February 5th. You might remember it was a little snowy that day. So vastly different than it is today. So thank you for making time on the agenda for this exciting opportunity. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Allison Emery. Allison is a workforce health consultant with Kaiser Permanente. You may know that Kaiser Permanente is one of the health plans that our employees have the option to enroll in. She and Christina Kahanik, who's here as well from Kaiser, have been strong partners with the district for many years. And so when we heard about this award and the fact that it's being bestowed upon our wellness coordinator, we were thrilled, to say the least. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Allison Emery from Kaiser.
Thank you, Rondi, and thank you all for the time to share this award with you today. In my role at Kaiser Permanente, I have the great privilege of working with employer groups on their employee wellness and engagement strategies. all across Washington State. And I'm here today representing that role as well as our unique investment and initiative in schools that we call Thriving Schools. As Ronnie pointed out, Kaiser Permanente is one of your health plan options. We are also a medical care provider delivering care to our members at medical centers, one of which is just right down the street. But part of our mission is that we're committed to the total health of our community, and that goes outside of our medical center walls. To us, that means not only delivering great healthcare, but creating healthy communities where people live, work, and play. And we really see schools as a place where people come together to generate positive change. And I don't think I need to tell anyone here that we also know there's a strong connection between education and health. And good education leads to better job prospects, better access to healthcare, and health over the course of a lifetime. And we also know that it's not just about the students, but it's also about having staff and teachers that are able to be healthy and well and at their best so that learning can thrive. And so Thriving Schools, in essence, is just our all-in engagement to improve health for students, staff, and teachers in Washington schools. And we're so pleased to be able to work with the Everett Public Schools in multiple capacities, including a partnership in career pathways in STEM, as well as all of the work that we get to do with Shelley and the great team on their employee wellness program. So we're here to recognize that great work and investment that you all have made in the health and well-being of your employees, and to specifically honor the person leading that work. So this award, the Kaiser Permanente Thriving Schools Honor Roll Awards program, recognizes those individuals who are championing sustainable, healthy school environments across the country. The program celebrates successes, recognizes innovation, and elevates best practices so that we can all be inspired. And since 2015, the honor is awarded annually to school wellness leaders across the country. Last year, I had the honor of nominating Shelley Henderson, the Everett Public Schools Wellness Coordinator. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten to know Shelley through attendance at the Everett School District Wellbeing Fairs, health plan meetings, walking challenges, and employee wellbeing workshops. When I was recently creating a community advisory committee on how to bring the concept of staff wellbeing in schools to a broader statewide audience, that I might point out, not every district has the same great support and infrastructure that Everett does in this work. Shelley was one of the first people to come to mind, and if you know anything about her, she was the first to enthusiastically jump on board and contribute her thoughts and insights. Our team has gotten to know the great work Shelley has done in creating a holistic conversation around health and well-being, shifting the conversation from just an admonishment of eat less, move more, to one about mindfulness, musical meditation, and self-care, thinking about the whole person so that they can think about the whole child. Recognizing the immense stress school staff are under, she advocates for stress reduction, mindfulness techniques in the classroom, and identifies new areas of interest, like an education campaign around the importance of sleep, and always does it with energy, creativity, and humor. We recognize her for her vision of wellness, not just for staff, but the school community. She is a leader in demonstrating how staff wellness is not a standalone objective, but a movement-building culture change. For example, Shelley brought multiple facets of the school community together in her partnership with the high school DECA students to design t-shirts promoting mindfulness in the classroom, leveraging all of the district's assets. So we are so pleased to be presenting this award to Shelley for her efforts to keep well-being fresh, fun, and at the forefront of the school community's focus. With Shelley's approach to staff well-being is the recognition that what is good for staff is good for students, is good for schools, and ultimately good for our communities. So thank you all for your time and for this opportunity to present this award, and please join me in congratulating Shelley on her 2019 Thriving Schools Honor Roll Award. Thank you.
Ronnie.
And don't run away because we have a certificate as well.
Okay, let's get the board in there now. Stay there.
This way just a little bit, so we've got the flags behind us. So we get the flags behind us, yeah. You don't know where the flags are. You're like so excited about your apple.
So we also have this
recognition
members of staff in Everett Public Schools. I was so excited to hear about her here today. It's very encompassing of all staff and students, and as you said, our community. So thank you so much.
We should put the names on the insides too.
Next on the agenda is Section 6.0, but before moving on to Section 6.0 audience comments, the board would like to do a somewhat unannounced and surprise recognition, second recognition of Debbie Vanderwelt, sitting at our far right, executive assistant. She's retiring at the end of March. So this is our last meeting together. I'm glad the tissue box is by me, but we definitely wanted to recognize you, Debbie. I won't make you stand until later, okay. Just a little bit about Debbie. She began her employment with the district just over 35 years ago. Remarkable. And that was at Eisenhower Middle School, where she was general office support, but also community schools coordinator. And then 15 years later, she moved on to the assistant superintendent's office, where her title was confidential secretary. And about 4 years later, in 2002, she moved to the superintendent's office, where she's been executive assistant extraordinaire. So I've had the pleasure of working with Debbie over the past 11 years as a board member, and certainly appreciate the demands of her position. Managing the superintendent and board schedule, activities, and paperwork is definitely no easy task. It requires teamwork, constant attention to detail, and in some cases, extreme patience and persistence. The smooth running of board meetings, study sessions, retreats, and all the other activities are because of the behind-the-scenes preparation done by Debbie and her team. She's really has a hand in making us all look our best. So as I mentioned, I have worked with Debbie for over a decade, and we've seen some major changes in that time. We were in the old building, of course, and early on, I think one of the major changes we've seen was the move to board docs, the paperless system. I do have somewhat fond memories, though, of every Friday afternoon we would get personal delivery of our board packets. It was often 2 or more packets of paper that we would go home and read over the weekend, but they always came neatly indexed and ready to read, and I do miss that face-to-face delivery now and again, but I do also appreciate the efficiency of board docs. I must also share that Debbie has been most skilled at keeping me on track with numerous gentle ways of reminding me that I haven't responded to an invitation, or perhaps that I should have been to a meeting 5 minutes earlier. So it is not an easy job, as I said. So just a big thank you, Debbie, for your attention, your competent service over the years. And I know that other board members would like to share a few thoughts as well. And we will start with Dr. Mitchell. Director Mitchell, excuse me.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to say thank you because not the newest board member, but you do a lot of our orientation. And for the past 5 years, again, the hand holding, I don't want to repeat everything, as well as supporting the superintendent, who will put something on a calendar and I can call you and say, can you put on both calendars? Because if it's not on the work calendar, it's really not going to happen. But But thank you. And the fact, too, that many might not know is she also gave us a teacher. And the fact that her daughter teaches in this district, so her legacy is going to continue. And retirement, I think, is a great blessing when you've put in years of great work and you get to vacation and spend time with your family. And I just someday look forward to that, but I'm going to celebrate what you get to do. And that this is just a blessing for you. So thank you.
Well, I didn't know it at the time, but our paths crossed years before I actually met you when my son had your daughter in her class. And I remember your first grandbaby coming to life during that time. And so it's just been a joy to get to know the rest of the family and spend the years that we've had together. You're just an incredible professional. You are so on top of everything, and just appreciate both from a personal and professional standpoint of having the opportunity to know and work with you. So thank you.
Dr. Lissing.
Oh, I had to write it down because I was afraid that I might forget something and then get all touched and not be able to communicate very well. And I just wanted to say, I want to congratulate you and extend my best wishes for your retirement. You are definitely to be commended for the years of work that you've done here and also the work for the district, the many superintendents that have come and gone, and the many board members that have come and gone. And I want to say, for me, thank you for keeping me focused on things and having to sometimes also say, hey, did you get that meeting? It's supposed to be scheduled on your calendar. And then I call back, I don't have it on my calendar. Don't know what's going on. But thank you so much. And I just want to say this, that there was an article in Seattle Times a little while ago that reported that Everett's work demonstrates the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And we're about to lose one of those parts. But because of what you've done and what you've dedicated your work on and your contributions, you've established and helped grow something that will be able to be continued for many years to come. And I want to say you probably won't stay long in retirement. I can see you becoming deeply involved as a volunteer and just keeping busier than probably you were when you were working. It will seem strange here without your cheery good mornings or your happy Tuesday, happy Monday, happy Friday. We will miss you, but please don't forget us. You deserve this, you truly do. And best wishes for a long-deserved change. Congratulations.
Dr. Nankar.
So the first shoe drops, and after that it'll be with Dr. Stewart and then Dr. Cohn. But I do want to wish you a lot of happiness and very good health in your retirement, and also say thank you for showing me much patience and kindness and grace in the few months that I've been here. So thank you and congratulations and everything good and powerful and happiness.
I haven't had the opportunity to be around you as much as the other directors, but I just wanted to say thank you for all the kindness and welcoming that you did for me transitioning into this position, and you definitely made it easy. And I looked forward to coming to board meetings because I knew you would be a familiar face. So congratulations and thank you so much for your service.
So Debbie, just to summarize, we do thank you. You have been a true professional, but also you feel like a friend, which just makes a world of difference. So we wish you the best in your retirement. Enjoy your family, especially those grandkids. And we have a little something for you. So I think maybe we will gather down friends or first. Yeah. Okay.
1983 to March 2019. So, and then, of course, a certificate of recognition signed by all board members. For being a valued staff member for over 35 years. And for representing Everett Public Schools with excellence. You will be missed. Can you look closer?
And on behalf of the board, a little something for you and all the boards before us. All right. No, go ahead. Yeah, sorry about that, but it, well, it looks beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous. Try to top that.
Thank you again, Debbie.
Back to work.
Yeah, now back to work. Okay, well, now we will move on to Section 6, audience comments. The school board sets aside time during each regular meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspectives you bring to the table. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests for comments during this time?
Yes, there are.
Okay. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to this meeting. Our school board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same spirit. I will share how this portion of the meeting is conducted. The superintendent will call you to the podium to speak in the order in which you signed up this afternoon. Each speaker has 3 minutes for their comments. All comments are recorded and will be made available for future viewing by the board and public. This public comment time in the agenda is for the board to listen to what you have to say. It's not a time for debate or discussion, and board members will not respond to individual comments during this time. As board president, I have the responsibility to ensure the meeting and conversations are orderly and respectful. I appreciate your cooperation in helping me carry out that responsibility. Dr. Cohn, who is our first commenter?
Thank you very much. The first speaker this evening is Margaret Harvey. Margaret's a resident of the district, former staff member in the district, and she would like to address the board regarding classified staff and the budget. The green light on the lectern will signify the start of your 3 minutes, the yellow a 30-second warning, and the red the expiration of the 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Margaret Harvey. I live in Everett and taught in 5 Everett elementary schools over the course of my 26-year career with EPS. In fact, my favorite principal is sitting right there. I often taught on a team that included paraeducators. Paraeducators receive training and instruction, specifically literacy and math. Each elementary school has at least 3 60 to 90-minute literacy blocks whose success depends on the participation of paraeducators as teachers of small groups and as individual tutors. Paraeducators collaborate and plan with teachers, then deliver instruction to 2 or more groups of up to 6 children in each literacy block every day. They give assessments, adjust instruction, and record data. My youngest daughter is a paraeducator at Jackson Elementary School. Julie specifically works in the developmental kindergarten with very small children who have very big, diverse needs. Many mornings, she rides in a district van to the home of a student in her class. She reassures the mother and child, then persuades them that it's time to come to school. For that family, Julie is the face of Everett Public Schools. Julie loves this work and she has great compassion for these children. She has found her calling in working with children with special needs. For that, I'm very grateful. Several months ago, Julie and her 10-year-old daughter, Wednesday, lost their roommate and as a consequence, their apartment. Now they live with Papa, who rents 2 bedrooms in his home to them. It's all Julie can afford on monthly wages of $1,600. 6 years ago, she was living with her daughter independently on her full-time wages from her job at Value Village, including paying for childcare. I was stunned. I confess, it never occurred to me that paraeducators did not make a living wage. Apart from the lack of a living wage, a disparity in wages seems to be growing. My friend, a teacher in our district, has a daughter, a single parent of 2, and a paraeducator in Everett. My friend recently shared that her generous monthly raise is more than her daughter's monthly salary. I would like a written response to the following, please. Does the board agree or disagree with this statement? We need to make sure our employees are respected, and part of that includes a salary that lets them live. Is this board aware of the connection between sustained financial stress, poor employee health, and diminished performance at work? And finally, when this board approved the budget, were you aware that you were imposing a chronic state of financial insecurity and stress on hundreds of full-time classified staff of EPS by not paying a living wage to these individuals, effectively compromising their health and productivity as workers while undercutting their ability to live independently? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey.
The second speaker this evening is Karen Pauley. Karen is an employee of the district at Eisenhower Middle School and would like to speak to the board regarding the paraeducator contract.
Hello, my name is Karen Pauley. I've been with the Everett School District since 1999. I've been a permanent employee at Eisenhower Middle School since 2001. During my 19-year tenure with the school district, I have devoted myself to be a valuable part of the special education program at Eisenhower in the resource room as a paraeducator. In addition to my regular duties, I have worked in the inclusion program in numerous general education math and science classrooms. I have taken on the responsibility of working one-on-one with a special needs student, and I have supervised our after-school homework program. I am proud to share that my 17 year-end reviews have all been exceptional. I love my work in the classroom, and I love the teacher I work with. The most important fact I can share is that I love working with the students year after year. Recently, the PSE concluded negotiations with the school district in order that we, the Everett Public School paraeducators, might realize a well-deserved raise in pay. I believed I was going to receive a fair and substantial raise, considering I am a veteran district employee. Instead, I received a raise of exactly $3 a month. I believe that the school board knew full well how the structure of this final offer to the PSE would impact many paraeducators, especially those with the most experience. In a recent letter from Dr. Gary Cohn, he outlined in detail how valuable and necessary paraeducators are to the district. These are kind words, but given the raise I received, and many others as well, I don't feel the support through the compensation received. Rather, I feel disrespected and undervalued. I want the board to understand how devalued veteran Everett Public School paraeducators feel, myself included. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Polly. We'll now move to Section 7, the consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, would you please provide an introduction to the consent agenda?
Certainly. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items. Examples of this type of item include meeting minutes, personnel, actions, expense, vouchers, surplus lists, gifts and grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently, but that are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report 1 or more weeks before the board meeting, when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed in new business, and the remaining items are automatically renumbered. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, the consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, I don't believe we've received any questions or comments regarding the items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published for your approval.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mitchell to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section? Hearing no requests, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The consent agenda is approved. On to Section 8, Board Comments. This is an opportunity for directors to share their activities and comments that relate to board service. We have a pretty lengthy meeting tonight, so let's keep it to about the allotted time or whatever, please. And we will start with, Damian, did you have comments tonight? No, I will. Thank you. Director Lassane?
No, I was going to comment about the continuation or the conclusion of the saucers, but I attended Eisenhower and a saucer at Silver Lake. But I found that I have one more, so there's still more saucers in the works. And they are going exceptionally well. And so I'm looking forward to my last saucer so I can say that I've completed all my saucers. I would like to say that I happened to return to Silver Lake last night, and they had family reading night. And it was a good opportunity to sit with teachers who had, their students there, some in pajamas, and I mean the teachers and the students, reading their favorite books. But I attended and I had the opportunity to read, not in my PJs though. I did not go that far. But one thing I did happen to do is had the opportunity to meet with several parents. And I must say that our parents are very happy with what is going on in the district. They're very happy with the opportunity to come back to school and read with their students at their schools. And I was very happy just to hear what they had to say. And that just made me feel nice and comfortable and warm, that they feel very happy with what is going on at their school right now. And so that's a good thing. So.
Thank you. Director Mason?
Yes, I too was going to talk about saucers. There's been quite a few. We also, since we last met, all had the opportunity to attend the Everett Public Schools Foundation breakfast, which was a great success this year. Just glad to see the outpouring of support and wallets for our students. Saucers, so I started writing them down. I went to Eisenhower, Evergreen, Everett, Notice the theme? And I went to Emerson last month. So I think I've hit all the E's this year, and then also had an amazing one at Garfield. And just briefly, I don't want to talk about them individually, but I just, more so than any year that I've attended Saucers, the appreciation for the facilities and maintenance and ground crews has been just overwhelming in terms of their appreciation for what those teams have done. And it just reminds me, we do focus a lot on classrooms and teachers and paraeducators and what happens inside the buildings, and just how valuable those individuals are in creating a positive culture throughout our school as well. And it's great that they're being recognized throughout the buildings like that. I also had an opportunity to go to Everett High School Culture Night. I think one of the greatest things our district has started doing in the last several years at all the schools that do one of those. We had our annual budget review, always interesting. And then last night, I had the opportunity to attend the bond, the Citizens Committee that's working on the bond. And the thing that I walked away with that I absolutely loved is they are all wrestling with the same things we wrestle with. How do you include all those projects on one small bond that voters will approve? So that will be interesting to see how it all plays out. And then, I know I'm supposed to be quick, I'm being long tonight. Just on a personal or maybe blended note between district and family business, on Sunday, my son's hockey team won the U18 C Division Championship for Everett. And this is Everett Youth Hockey. And then I started thinking about it, and he played with Everett Lacrosse Club, and he's played Everett Youth Soccer, and he's played Boys and Girls Club basketball, and he's never played a high school sport in our schools. And what it made me realize is how appreciative I am. We talk a lot about partnerships in our school and the support outside, and it's often around, more recently STEM and work and apprenticeship and such. And most of those teams, first of all, none of them are cut sports. And second of all, they're almost all Everett Public School students. And I'm just so thankful that we have those organizations to partner with to take our kids on and create the activities and teams and things that we can't either afford to or have time to, or for whatever reason do inside our schools. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on to Director Mitchell, I apologize, Student Representative Tran. I completely started one too close. Did you have comments this evening?
Just one. Director Mason mentioned it, Culture Night, but the Cascade High School one is being held tomorrow night. Yeah. And I will be attending the flag parade. Probably won't be able to stay for the whole time, but very excited. It's the first one. Yeah. That's all.
Great. It's the first one, you say?
Yeah, first one at Cascade.
Oh, great. What time is that?
It starts at 6.
6. Good. Thank you. Director Mitchell.
This has nothing, my first thing has nothing to do with the district, except for the fact I was at a cardiology conference meeting a colleague who works in Utah, and my colleague that I work with that works in Colorado with him, she goes, "Oh, Tracy lives in Everett." And he goes, "Oh, I grew up in Everett." I said, "Where'd you go to high school?" He goes, "Cascade." So it was just sort of, I said, "Well, I'm on the school board." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, my brother lives out there." So anyway, our students are everywhere, and sometimes you bump into them in the wackiest of places. Yes, Saucers, I'm gonna skip over that because that could go on too long. I too went to my first cultural night at Penny Creek Elementary. They've had them ever since Becca was a student there, but I worked swing shift and was just never able to go, and so I intentionally went on that night. And I'm very actually thankful for their reader board, and I actually mentioned something to Miss Heater because if it didn't say that and I drove past it every day that week, I wouldn't have remembered to go. And I asked her about an electronic reader board, and she said the DOT won't let them have one because she says they have trouble keeping it updated. And I'm like, wouldn't it be easy to just do that in the office and go cultural night, PTA meeting? But DOT problems, I guess. But there were 17 countries represented plus a 5th grade project. I saw dancing. I had great Iranian cookies. And I had a dinner plan, so I didn't eat all the food, but there was a whole lot of food that smelled really, really good. I saw some hula dancers that a teacher was doing, and then I believe the religion is called Sikh, with the turbans, and so a wife and the son were showing us how to put one on, and she was very clear, this is not a hat. You don't touch it, but showed how to do the pleats, and she kept pointing at his pleats and how perfect they were. So it's just really nice to learn those sorts of things. And then the benefit breakfast, and I'm going to call out Dr. Cohn because I did put it on social media. It was already on social media. That you have supported music so much in this district, really, really, I think supported the push behind getting the orchestra, all the bands, making sure that there is music in every school. And when you were invited up on the stage and you played the drums, I was very proud. And I think the kids felt very special because you did that. And I think that I just think that's awesome. The next thing, this is blending some parent stuff too. As my daughter is looking at colleges, I had no idea that some universities require SAT subject matter, 1 or 2 tests. And so she did sign up for 2 tests on her own. And they're actually at Cascade. And so while the SAT is during the school day, at least our kids that want to take more tests, they don't have to go far. And so the fact that we do offer this, I had no idea as a board member because this stuff sort of happens in the things, but as a parent, that is offered to our kids that want to do more. They don't have to go far into Seattle to do something that's right here at our schools. And then because of our college and career readiness, I said I was at a cardiology conference, and I learned from the head of the Cardiology Association for Washington State that only 2% of the cardiologists in Washington State are women. And that's just really, I was shocked by that because I know a whole lot of women cardiologists, but then if I look at all the males, and so as we're talking about this and we're with STEM and everything, that medicine is part of that, but if they're, that's an opportunity I think for women to shine, and I've always worked in cardiology, so I was sort of interested by that. But thank you, looking forward to NSBA and spring break.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. I also was going to comment about the foundation breakfast and Dr. Cohn's performance, which I just found very joyful, and just never really seen that kind of grin on your face before, so it was great. Also, just Master of Ceremonies. It was really, I think, one of the best foundation breakfasts I've been to. And I also have been to 3 saucers. Only one starts with an E, Evergreen. The other were Heatherwood and Cedarwood.
You hit the woods.
Yes, I hit the woods. Interesting to go back to schools. Some of these schools I've attended, and some my children have attended. So it's always interesting to kind of see the changes. But just very quickly, I think what's really standing out to me this year is just how essential the LIF time is for teachers, and also the focus on PBIS has been really amazing, and it just takes a lot of different sort of arrangements and approaches at the different schools, but it's obviously being embraced. So that has been very interesting to see. So we will move on to Section 9, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Cohn?
Very good. Thank you very much. We have a fairly, I think, short set of slides this evening. I want to recognize that March 11 through 15 was Classified Employees Recognition Week, and I wanted to share with you on the front of my report slides tonight a few photos from the festivities celebrating our classified staff at Everett High School, at Jackson High School, and also here at the Community Resource Center. Of course, there are a lot more pictures, but we only had room for a few of them in here. So tonight, as I said, a little bit abbreviated, a few items of good news and some district updates, and then a little bit of construction information. During your last regular meeting, we highlighted Everett High's DECA Club. This time, we're going to showcase just briefly Cascade and Jackson. Earlier in the month, 10 Cascade DECA students competed with 4,000 other DECA students or DECA members at the State Career Development Conference in Bellevue. If you ever have a chance to go to one of these, I would recommend that you do so. It's really an amazing experience to see 4,000 kids all dressed up in business attire performing in these business contests in front of business leaders also from across the state. And I don't say this just because I used to be a marketing teacher and DEC advisor. I say this because it's a wonderful thing. Of the 10 who attended from Cascade, half qualified to compete in April at the International Career Development Conference in Orlando, Florida. And I heard that they want their superintendent to help chaperone. Jackson High School DECA sent 17 students to compete at state, and several qualified to compete in April in Orlando as well. We also had one student earn a first place and is the state champion in the financial consulting category. I understand that you'll all be receiving an opportunity to receive some financial consulting as a result of that win. Wanted you to know that the North Middle School North Engineering Robotics Design Squad was one of 24 teams invited from around the state to the GeekWire Robotics Cup. There are over 600 first LEGO League teams in the state. The nerds came in 6th place in a robot game, and they also won the Spirit Award. Yes, we just couldn't resist putting some pictures of the foundation in, and Debbie was kind enough to slip in some without my seeing them before the board meeting tonight. Our foundation 25th annual breakfast really was a wonderful success. The foundation raised $225,000 that morning, and $26,000 of it was for Community Care Fund, which was renamed Christie's Care Fund in honor of our retiring executive director and former school board member, Christy Dutton. Christie's community, I got to turn down my phone so I don't mess things up while I'm giving you my report because it tends to make noise. Christie's Care Fund provides an emergency fund for each of our schools to help provide students with basic needs. And wanted to recognize that Christie's retiring, which we certainly did at that breakfast, and thank all the folks who contributed and the staff and the students who came to share with you. It was fun. That's the first time I've ever experienced those kinds of drums. Wanted you to know that the Ray and associate staff are they're in the middle of conducting 42 focus groups throughout the community on March 18 through 20. Staff, students, parents, community members, business leaders, and elected officials have been invited and are attending these. You can see the stats on the slide. 139 folks have attended focus groups so far. 800 people have responded so far to the online survey, and they tell us at least half of those folks are district parents. Our little internal support group met with Jim Hager, who's pictured here, in one of the focus group meetings this morning, and he tells us that he had more folks in his first morning meetings this week than he experienced in the entire search at one of his other districts. So I think they're very pleased with the number of people who are responding to the invitation to get involved and tell you about what kind of qualities that they would like in the next superintendent and what the challenges are that the district faces, and maybe a little bit about district strengths as well. Of course, the information they distill from the process will assist you all in shaping the leadership profile that Ray & Associates will use for candidate recruiting. Advertising for the position begins next week following your meeting to shape that determination of profile attributes. Last week, Everett High School's 2019 Culture Night event was themed Everett Around the World, and it featured performers from a variety of cultures, some incredibly energetic students who very much enjoyed being up in front of friends and family and community members. Students also staffed booths all the way around the gymnasium there, and they presented their stories. They told a bit about the countries that they hail from, or their parents hail from, or their grandparents hail from. Some of them shared food, and we saw some dances and a variety of other amazing aspects of cultural celebration from a very international community. So I wanted to call that out and thank Caroline for attending with me. It was really a very nice evening. We've got, as students told you, as Hannah told you, another one tomorrow night at Cascade, and I'm looking forward to visiting Cascade while that's going on. Mill Creek Elementary also had a multicultural night. It was a big hit. I want to show you a few pictures. I've asked for some pictures for several of the superintendent's reports. They are not all the pictures from any one of the events or from pictures from all the events, but I wanted to just provide you a little bit of a window into some of the multicultural activities that students, parents, families, staff are organizing, mounting, and really enjoying at our schools. Wanted to introduce you to Adventures in Science. I may have reported on this in previous years, but in any event, I want to take a moment and show you a couple of pictures. Our 5th grade students at Woodside Elementary received a visit from the Seattle Children's Science Adventure Lab this month. The students boarded the state-of-the-art bus and were introduced to the learning module Seeking the Sugar Solution, Nutrition and Chemistry curriculum, which supports both next-generation science standards and our Common Core state standards. The learning module that's contained in this mobile unit addresses chemistry, scientific method, the standards I mentioned, reagents, nutrition, and obesity. Students performed an experiment using micropipettes, vortex mixers, which I don't think that's the same thing that you use for your smoothies in the morning, heat blocks, and Benedict's reagent, and it consisted of students using the chemical mixture Benedict's, which provides a visible red precipitate when it reacts with sugar. The module utilizes chemistry to encourage students to think about the connection between health and nutrition and to make healthy decisions, particularly about what drinks they should consume. We want to say a special thank you to the Seattle Children's Group and others who made this particular learning experience possible for our 5th grade students. Yeah, I really did. What? I must have pressed the wrong button somewhere. Sorry. Let's try that again. And back we go, and we'll try not to make you ill during this process. There we go. All right, and the good news is it's my last slide with 2 minutes, 58 seconds left. This is a little bit about construction. The new building is under a permanent roof at North Middle. Mike tells us that we've only got finishing details remaining on that part of the work. Sheetrock started on schedule, March 5. Permanent power was energized the 14th of the month. Window installation started the first week of the month, and a portion of the building has temporary heat. I must be pushing the wrong. Yeah, that's entirely possible. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it alone. But I will tell you that the interior painting is going to begin in. The other thing I'll do is I'll just go to the end. See the last slide in case I hit some other button while I'm doing this. The interior painting is going to begin at the end of March. Brick is nearly complete in the courtyard, and the mason, not Caroline, the brick mason, will move to the outside walls very soon. Tambar Creek Elementary roofing is approximately 80% complete. The exterior siding and windows are being installed. Interior sheetrock is approximately 50% complete. Paint and tackable wall panels are being installed in the classroom wing. The new underground water and sewer systems are installed, and the underground storm sewer system is nearing completion. That is my report for this evening, and I will just tell you for the record, I cut several slides out so that we could compact a little bit this evening. I'm saving them for next meeting, which could be long, but really rich. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear all the great things going on in the district. So we'll move on to section 10.0, strategic progress monitoring. This evening we have a presentation on college career and life readiness indicators. Dr. Scott.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity for us to share our developments and new advancements when it comes to developing metrics around college and career and life readiness. I'm on behalf of my team, the stellar team behind me. I'm going to serve as kind of the bookends of this presentation. Before we do, here are the objectives for this evening. We want to review college and life readiness indicators and also introduce career readiness indicators that you might not have seen before, so those in development. We want to highlight the intersections of college, career, and life readiness in some really key and critical areas, works in progress, and then consider next steps and elicit from you some feedback on those next steps. You can see here the related key performance outcomes. I think it's important to keep in the forefront and sort of in that bookend spirit the definition of college career and life readiness, which I won't read, but we bring it to the table tonight because it was collaboratively developed and it's alive and well, and it's sort of a North Star in terms of the realization of a vision of what the community wants for their kids. And so we hope that you see the monitoring of those KPIs associated with that definition tonight. Let's introduce Dr. Riley Black first.
Thanks. This year's College Career and Life Readiness Indicator presentation is a bit different than past years. In addition to the College and Life Readiness Indicators, we also are making our first attempt in including Career Readiness Indicators. As we began working on this presentation, we quickly realized that college, career, and life are not neat and clean categories into which we can organize data. Rather, these categories overlap and inform each other as depicted in the graphic on this slide. For example, as we interact with employers and ask about the knowledge and skills they seek in employees, we often hear of soft skills or 21st century skills. And while these may be career readiness indicators, they also are life readiness indicators, and we'll hear about them during Becky's update of life readiness indicators. Similarly, CTE dual credit has historically been included as a college readiness indicator, but clearly it also could be included as a career readiness indicator. Good evening. I'm going to talk to you about the college readiness indicators, and you've seen these the past few years, actually, as we've gone over them. So the first is our elementary school readiness indicators, and this is being at standard by third grade in ELA and math, and then absences less than 10%. In addition, there are some social emotional learning, 21st century skills indicators that Becky's going to talk about. As with past years, you're going to see that as free and reduced lunch rate increases, we see a decrease in the percentage of students who are college and career ready by this indicator. I do want to point out that the Everett School District, there in the middle, steadily increasing over time, and then we have several schools that have made big jumps this year, among them Mill Creek, Penny Creek, and then at the bottom, Hawthorne made a substantial increase this year. At middle school, we look at being on track on the SBA, the college and career level in ELA and math, and meeting the standard of Algebra 1 by 8th grade, and then less than 20% absences. And we actually report this particular index two ways. In green, we have just meeting standard on the SBA and meeting the attendance standard, in blue. So you can see that's quite a few more students who meet that standard. Once we add Algebra 1 in, you see in the green bars, that reduces the number of students who meet that college readiness standard. And in our district, students actually have 4 different courses that they can take for high school credit, but the research really focuses on the math, and that's why we only report the math. We certainly have some students take the high school courses in other areas as well. So again, you can see as free and reduced lunch rate increases, we have a steady decline in the percentage of students who are college and career ready. Everett in the middle is relatively flat. We have Gateway decreasing over time a little bit, and Heatherwood flat. Eisenhower, Evergreen, and North, however, increasing, which is a very good trend for us to see there. The college readiness indicators are a little bit more diverse, and we don't have a single index, and that's it's just too hard to put this many indicators in the same index. So maintaining your GPA of 3.0 or higher is not first, meeting the college and career readiness standard on the SBA. Over time, we're seeing this standard increasing every year. We have a slight decrease in ELA at Cascade in 2017, but for the most part, increasing over time. One of the things to note on this slide is that you'll notice ELA is much higher, a greater percentage of students meeting that standard than math. And remember, again, the weird math state assessment rules that we had, wherein they were not the graduation requirements. SBA was not the graduation requirements. So that's lagging a little bit, but you can see it growing, and I expect a fairly large bump next year when it is aligned. Percent of students meeting the GPA standard, flat at Cascade, decreasing slightly at Everett High, rising at Jackson, and overall for the district a slight increase. Meeting the SAT college readiness benchmark, and remember that we test all students in 11th grade, regardless of their academic preparation, so this looks very different in a district where it is solely the students self-selecting in. You will see that we're flat at Cascade, slightly dropping at Everett, and pretty flat at Jackson and the district as well. This is a look at our AP qualifying scores. So these are the students who meet the 3.0 threshold on their AP exams. And last year we saw a rise at Everett and Jackson, but flat at the district, and that's following a slight decline at Cascade. And then we look at our chart courses. So this is AP College and the High School, Running Start, and then the CT dual credit courses. This is advanced placement, and this is an area we've invested in heavily. And this slide, just as a note, I'm not sure that you've seen this view before. Normally, I believe we give you a table. This is our breakdown of seats and courses in the large bar, the fatter bar. And then in the center of the bar, you see the number of students, individual students. So we're looking for a couple of things. One is a general rise in the courses, as you can see here, for AP, and a rise in the number of students that are taking those courses. In addition, each of these colors represents a different ethnic group. So for example, this yellowish color is our Hispanic population. You can see over time that band is getting larger, meaning more students are taking seats and more seats are taken up in AP courses by Hispanic or Latino students. And then below we see that yellow bar rising here, indicating more students are taking those courses. So we're looking for really two things: an increase in generally in the number of seats taken and the number of students, but also a proportionality, a distribution of our students that reflects the distribution of students in our general population. On the right side here, we see by gender and by socioeconomic status as well, and the same is true. The fatter bar represents the seats and courses, and the smaller the number of students, and we're looking for that increase. For example, our low-income students, almost immeasurable in 2012. We can now see that they're taking a larger number of seats and students in those courses. The same trend is generally true for college and the high school. You see a little dip here in 2016. An odd thing happened in the way that those courses were counted, and it will flow through on the next slide for Running Start in 2017. So overall, a general increase in the number of seats and the number of students, and the diversity of students taking those courses, ethnically and socioeconomically, and of course by gender we want to see sort of the half and half there. So that's our population. And here we see Running Start, and you see that dip 2016 and 17. I believe this is when we started giving waivers through the foundation at Everett for college and high school courses. So I believe some of our students actually chose college and high school over Running Start in those years. In addition, there was a strange readjustment of how we accounted for those courses through OSPI. So I would say that those dips are a little bit artificial and not quite as extreme. At any rate, we have recovered substantially in 2017-18 in Running Start. And again, we see improvements in our different subgroups, not quite as much. And that may be reflected in the fact that they have to transport themselves off campus. It's a little bigger job to do, I guess, for those students. And then CTE dual credit, and I believe that Brian is going to talk more about this. We've seen a little bit of a decline here, and I think this has primarily to do with what courses are counted that in the past may have been. Some of the lower level courses that aren't counted anymore. Finally, we have the CADRs. So these are the college academic distribution requirements, and this really tells us what students are meeting each of the requirements in English, math, science, world language to get into college, in a four-year college in Washington State. We are up overall as a district with 67.2% of kids meeting all of the standards. That's up from 63% last year. So we're positioned well for that. Many of these courses we require the same number that the colleges do. So our students typically get much closer to achieving those. I think we're going to see a bump in world language over time, especially with the world language exam. That's the one area that lags a bit. And now I will pass it off to you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to look at the life readiness indicators because we know that social emotional learning is foundational to academic and college and career readiness. These are results of the Panorama Students SEL survey that was given to elementary students, grades 3 through 5, last fall. If you'll look on the left of your screen, the blue bar indicates the percent favorable. If, for example, a score of 78% favorable means that 78% of respondents selected a favorable answer choice. The green dot indicates how this percentage compares to others nationally. The next score allows you to get a quick glance of how your topic scores have changed since the last survey, in this case, spring 2018. Changes are noted by the arrows on the graph. One thing we need to remember is that for the elementary survey, students they self-identify their ethnicity. So we don't think that we have 127 American Indian or Alaska Native students. However, we may have more students who have a multiracial ethnicity. For secondary scores, we download the demographics so they are more accurate. Many scores are up compared to last spring, but if you'll notice, grit, teacher-student relationships, and sense of belonging are lower. But you have to remember this was given in the fall, and if these were spring results, we would expect a bigger increase in that. If you look at the right on the heat map, I'd like to point out that the sense of belonging is high for our EL students last fall, as it may be lower for others. As Catherine and Dana talked about the 21st century skills, these are the set of skills that the school board adopted as our 21st century skills. And one way that we measure these is on the elementary school progress report. These are teacher assessed. They don't exactly match up with the Panorama SEL data, which is student perspective data. But one of the reasons that we chose Panorama is that the survey does align with some of these and many of these 21st century skills, like growth mindset and collaboration. Both of these measures combined give us some very useful information. Now we're ready for Dana.
So we searched statewide and nationally for a template of career readiness indicators. And rather than finding a template, we were met with the agreement that this category of data is important and should be developed. So we decided to organize our career readiness indicators around the continuum of our career-connected learning program categories: career awareness, career exploration, and career preparation. You may remember these categories from very recent career-connected learning and career pathway study sessions. So as I go through this next set of slides, please recognize that this is our first attempt at both identifying and organizing these data. As we move forward in time, we will refine and disaggregate the data within each of the categories. Career awareness is a category of experiences in which students learn about work. These are typically one-time interactions. Examples of career awareness experiences are district-wide CTE events, as well as courses with embedded professionals, such as the Microsoft Teals program. The italicized programs, or the programs in italics, are those programs for which we have aligned data in the following slides. Trade Up is our partnership with the Snohomish County Labor Council. For one day, the Cascade High School parking lot becomes filled with hands-on skilled trade experiences. In its second year, the 2018 Trade Up hosted 67 students from across the school district. Career Up is a new experience this year. On Career Up Day, industry professionals visited CTE classes and provided short career talks. This year, 39 classes participated in Career Up. Career readiness does not only take place in high school. For example, the STEM competition featured at the annual Innovation Expo includes students in grades 4 and 5 as well as middle school. Each STEM competition project is meant to support students in exploring a STEM field. Career exploration is a category of experiences in which students learn for work. These experiences are purposed to help students identify career interest and inform high school and post-secondary education decisions. In reality, all CTE courses are exploratory. However, because all students are required to take at least one CTE credit as a graduation requirement, we found these data misleading, and we decided to narrow our scope of the data in this category. We'll look at CTE advanced placement, CTE dual credit. Actually, Catherine introduced that on slide 22. CTSO participation and industry certification. Several of our CTE courses are also designated as AP courses. So a student receives CTE credit and has option to take the AP exam. You will remember a CTSO is a career and technical student organization. These are opportunities for students to extend their classroom learning. For these data, to depict authentic engagement in a CTSO, we identified CTSO participation as a student's participation at the level in which they attended a CTSO tournament. Career preparation is a category of experiences in which students apply their learning through practical work experiences. The categories of this program we identified for this purpose for today's work are work-based learning, certifications, and participation in skill center courses. Worksite learning is a program in which students with jobs are supported with wraparound learning to help make explicit learning about work. Youth apprenticeships include our participation with the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee, or AJAC. For the spring of 2018 cohort, we just hosted over 90 students and their families to inform 2 information sessions, so we're expecting that next year that number will bump up. Summer internships build off of our worksite learning program, and we are very purpose placement and support of a 90-hour summer experience. We have been working hard to grow this program, and in June, I will be excited to share more with you about this growth. Some of our CTE courses include the opportunity for students to complete industry-recognized certifications. These are certifications recognized by industry as determining a student or a completer having competencies in a particular occupation. And finally, career preparation also includes student participation in skill center courses. In the future, we will be able to include skill center courses based within our own high schools, such as the 3-credit Foundations of Manufacturing course, which will launch at Cascade High School in the fall of 2019. So thus far in the presentation, Catherine has addressed college readiness indicators, Becky life readiness indicators, and I provided a new overview of career readiness indicators. For the remainder of the presentation, we have moved the circles of our graphic into a Venn diagram, as the next several slides address examples of the implementation and overlap of our focus on student readiness for college, career, and life. This slide shows a college career life readiness framework that was developed in conjunction with Naviance, and which Jeannie and I had input into. And I think it's another demonstration, another display of how college career and life readiness are integrated and work together. It provides a blueprint to prepare our middle and high school students for success after graduation. And this model, if you notice, outlines 6 competencies that students in grades 6 through 12 need to become college, career, and life ready. Each competency outlines themes and objectives to further define success, as well as grade-specific activities to achieve each of the grade-specific objectives. And we have utilized this framework within our own high school and beyond scope and sequence.
And actually, I'm going to share with you what that sequence looks like. We have this great one-pager, it's a back and front, that we use with our teachers, with our counselors, with our career specialists to outline what is supposed to take place in Naviance and what the high school and beyond plan tasks are. So even though it's very tiny here, what it has on there are all of the lessons, links to them, that students should be completing at each grade level. And by the way, our students really do complete those lessons, and we have 98, 99, and 100% login rates at each of our schools at each of the grade levels. But what you also see here is that there's been intentional work around the college, career, and life readiness framework and around our social emotional learning. So alongside of each of those lessons are, in addition to standards that we have in counseling, it really speaks to each of those framework ideas that Becky was sharing. And so even though it's very small, if you look, there's a right column, it actually outlines which of those CCLR framework ideas is being monitored through that work and what students are exploring when they're involved in that lesson. Then, as our finale, our college and career readiness seminar class really pulls together a lot of this work and is the final piece in our high school and beyond plan. And what we've been doing for a long time, even before its recent iterations, is that it's really been focused on the pieces that you see that are monitored through Panorama, which is really that social emotional learning. And if you were to look at the Panorama surveys, you would see the areas of self-management, grit, growth mindset, and social awareness. And what you see is throughout our lessons, the pieces that students have to complete in that course, that they are all aligned to the pieces that we want students to engage in to be prepared for their next steps, for going to college or trade school, for going on to the workforce, and for having a full life. And so these are pieces that we build in there. With that, our next steps are really in these 3 areas. The college readiness indicators, you can see those in some of our Naviance data when we have an opportunity to share that with you around our post-secondary rates. We actually are able to gather information from the educational research and data collection, which OSPI prepares for us, so we can see where students go on to college or if they're going on to 2-year schools. We also receive information student by student through the National Student Clearinghouse, and actually that pulls in through our Naviance tool and allows us to look at outcomes past their graduation with us. In addition, we really are looking at our student survey that we give seniors, and we pull information from them so that we are able to find out where they are planning to go And if we so choose in the future, we can use some of that information to connect with them because they tell us their email address, their cell phone that they have in May and June, which maybe they don't have in our eSchool system. So as we move forward, we can also use that to actually get in touch with some of our graduates. When it comes to life readiness indicators, we're very committed to strengthening both the preventative strategies and lessons that go along with that social emotional learning, but also gathering data that backs those outcomes and what is really taking place in our schools. And then you heard Dana really highlighting our career readiness. It has been part of our work. It is just very hard to measure because we are removed from that step oftentimes when it comes to kids and when they leave us. It's been a hard road to even gather the college data, but we're much more able to gather it, find out where kids have arrived. But the workforce data is something that you see the Washington Student Achievement Council, you see other agencies looking at to call on the legislature to come up with systems so that we can actually have the K-12 experience, then college and workforce, or any variation in between, actually account for where students arrive. So we're working on advocating for those systems as well.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you again for the opportunity for allowing us to describe the development of these key performance indicators, particularly in the area of career readiness, and for allowing us the opportunity to illustrate those connections, the points of intersection with the high impact work in progress across the district, of which you've heard in saucers and in other venues and in the next steps as well. So at this time, we're going to invite your questions or comments.
Thank you. Directors, questions or comments?
I just have one comment. The 24th century skills, those little icons, saw them used at a couple saucers where they were showing different tasks and which one would do that. And I know, Director Lesane would always say, when are these going to be on the report card? When are we going to have the rubrics for these? And so it was sort of nice to see that come full circle. Can't say I have every single icon memorized, but it was just sort of nice that there is intention put into what we're teaching and how does it reflect back on those skills. So thank you for that. And, I saw it at a couple. I imagine that's going to continue to grow if it's not already happening everywhere.
Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Director Mason, sure.
It's a great report and a great first step at trying to gather all this information. And after looking through the presentation earlier, I kind of had this vision of being able to do like the gap analysis with, the kids that are ready and the kids that aren't ready and closing the gap over the years. But the complexity of bringing all the data points together, but I know Catherine's going to figure it out. So, yeah. But I did have a question that's just a kind of a side note. I noticed on slide 44, under social awareness, the financial literacy. Do we have an actual curriculum we use for that? And how broad or detailed is that?
The financial literacy unit that we have in our college and career readiness seminar is Everett, and it uses the national standards for financial literacy. We had actually built financial lessons because of student feedback years ago, and we found that there was work taking place through the state, but nationally, that we weren't keeping up with. And so Everett has been a free program that ties into our single sign-on. We can do a lot of things with that. It's a comprehensive financial literacy program. So it talks about credit, planning for the future, a lot of the big pieces that we were pulling together and had done a lot of work around, but it keeps it up to date. So that is a significant portion of that final course. So you see it also that it's tied to also our social emotional learning goals as well.
That's great. I appreciate a little more information on that. It's interesting because I struggle with how to talk to my kids about this because they want to Venmo. They want to.
Of course.
Like, well, did you get your checkbook out? And and so
kids don't balance checkbooks anymore.
I know. And so I imagine it's nice that we're connected with something that's evolving and staying up to date. And
talks about retirement.
I know the fundamentals are basic still, though. Saving for the future and things like that. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Lassane?
I do have a question regarding career readiness, in which we talk about student participation in CTSO tournaments. My question in that is it student-driven if the student finds these association organizations out there to build on their campus? Is it driven by the students finding them, or is it driven by an advisor finding them to develop that interest on campus? How is the interest developed?
Is your question, how is student participation developed?
Yes.
The interest to participate?
Interest to participate.
So my understanding of it, I've never advised one of these before, but Dr. Cohen has, so I'll give my best example, is that these experiences, these CTSOs do not sit on their own after school, but rather they're extensions of courses that students take. And so students are introduced to the opportunities in their coursework, as well as most likely from their peers. And so it grows from there.
I see. So as we develop more classes or courses inside of school, more organizations and more involvement, student activities will develop.
Yes, and we've increased, I don't remember the exact number right now, but we've increased the number of CTSOs by a significant amount over the past 3 years. So then it becomes increasing the participation in those clubs.
CTSOs are what are known in our language as co-curricular activities as compared to extracurricular activities. They're part and parcel of the approval of the CTE program. So when you're offering CTE programs in the district, one of the obligations of the district is to provide student leadership elements, and the CTSOs are essentially what fulfill that. So you don't go out and shop for CTSOs. When you offer a health-oriented curriculum, the HOSA, I think is the current, right, the
future health professional.
Health occupations, right. It's the health occupations equivalent of DECA, which is the marketing, right?
Yeah.
So they are associated with specific programmatic areas. And then when students get into those, they can choose whether or not they want to participate.
Understood.
Right? Simple one. On the career readiness bit, I think Dana might have been the one who alluded to this. I get the summer internship part. I've heard you and Dr. Cohn rumblings with various organizations in Snohomish County looking for such opportunities. I get the AJAX Youth Apprenticeship. Could you give me an example of the worksite learning one? I'll probably get it immediately.
Sure. We have a couple teachers across the district who are dedicated to worksite learning, and students can have a job already in the community, and we can then attach a connecting course to that job. It could be an online course or an in-person course in which it helps students kind of overtly understand the practices of work. I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
Yeah, Worksite Learning has been a program that we have where we have a core set of teachers who act as guides, essentially, and they visit the workplace. So students have jobs. They might be at Burger King. They might be working at IHOP or some other location. And it gives them a chance to get credit for their real-life experience.
Oh, so they already have a job.
They already have a job.
Okay,
and we're tapping into that. That's what's going on in Worksite Learning. And then they're reflective about their work. And they need to follow up with certain tasks that goes along with the curriculum. But the primary driver is that a student already has a job.
Right. Okay.
This is very similar to what we had as work study in high school.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But they get paid outside of our district and do that. Yes.
So then this, how do we solicit or get the student to inform us about the job? Or maybe
Yeah,
they're
that
doing
comes up-
something and we don't know about it.
It comes up through different ways. There are students from all different backgrounds that have this opportunity. I have to say, very commonly, students who are working a lot may recognize that experience is there and choose to have it. We also have students who are working a lot who may be behind in credits. And so we're often working with them closely. I'm up here many times talking about our work, really kid by kid, having a conversation. And one of the first questions we'll ask is, do you have a job right now?
Yeah.
And then we'll line them up with worksite learning because it's value added to the experience that they're having.
Thank you. And then just one question. Something that Hannah does or Hunter does, where does it align in this?
Yes, so that has come up this year where we were talking about having a leadership piece to earning credit as well.
Okay.
And so I've been working with Brian Day on that so that credit could be earned for your representative work. It's a lot in service work. The work doesn't have to be where you get a paycheck,
Right.
although typically that is exactly what we've done. But it could be service, it could be community service hours, but specifically in leadership in the way that you represent our district is another way to do it too. We just started that this year, and so I'm hoping to move forward with that going onward. Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you. And if you need help, Hannah, I'll help you.
I had just a couple questions for clarification. The student enrollment in skills center programs, are those all Snow Isle students?
That slide, I can't remember what number that slide is, but
40.
those data are specifically Snow Isle Skill Center data.
And so then on this previous slide, 39, student completion of industry certifications.
These are our students. And I apologize, Brian Day's not here tonight. He has the flu, and he could speak more specifically to this. But these are largely with our Principles of Manufacturing class and our Auto Shop class that these are coming out of.
Okay. Yeah, they were all sort of areas that didn't sound immediately familiar to me. And one last question, on the Naviance slide, all of the different areas are fairly explanatory, but what is transition skills? Or what are transition skills?
What are transition
Probably
skills?
better stated.
I think these are skills, and Jeannie can help me with that, but these are skills that actually help students transition from high school to college. What are the requisite skills that they need in order to be able to successfully and effectively launch from their high school experience into the next post-secondary experience that they have?
So it's specific to college?
No, not necessarily. Whatever their
okay.
post-secondary experience would be, college, career, job, training, whatever that might be, because there are a lot of steps, as you know, for each of those, and it takes some social skills. It takes organizational skills and other skills to be able to pull that off.
And the navigational skills you would see even between middle school and high school also are part of those skills as well. So they happen at all grade levels, right? But we highlight them as they go through those two particular transitions with us into high school and their post-secondary piece, exactly as Becky described.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for a very thorough presentation and great update on our college, career, and life readiness indicators and their overlap. They are very interrelated for sure. We will move on to, or rather we will move through section 11 and 12 as there's no information and discussion or unfinished business. Moving on to section 13, new business. We have our first, section 1301, excuse me a minute, is approval of event facility naming rights agreement for baseball field at Memorial Stadium. Mr. Gunn?
So, good evening. Tonight, we are bringing to you for your consideration and approval, approval of a naming rights agreement that's actually between the Aqua Sox and Funco. The school district, an overview of the presentation tonight is I'll actually review the terms and conditions of the naming rights agreement. I'll talk about why it's even in front of us, since it's not an agreement that directly involves us. And then I'll give you an opportunity for discussion and comments. I will introduce a couple of guests here tonight who will also be invited to make just a few comments to you, and then I ask for your approval. So we have enjoyed a long history with the Aqua Sox, and before them, the Everett Giants. The relationship between us and them is that they use our baseball field. We own it, and we have been a good steward of that. Used funds from many sources, including Snohomish County, City of Everett, and the Aqua Sox, as well as our own funds to improve the stadium over time. We renew the agreement every 7 to 10 years, and so the most recent agreement, full agreement renewal, was in May of 2017. Soon after that, in July of 2017, we negotiated an amendment number 1 to that agreement. And that amendment said that the school district believes it has about $1.9 million in resources to do improvements to the stadium, including a synthetic turf field. And that money was from a couple different sources. One was $300,000 from Snohomish County, $300,000 from the Aqua Sox, paid in $30,000 parcels over 10 years, and then some funding from the school district. So that was amendment number 1. It also included that the Aqua Sox have the rights to sell the naming rights to the field. So the agreement also says, as part of that, that the proceeds from the sale of the naming rights will be provided the net of expenses. So in other words, you take the gross amount that the Aqua Sox will be getting. They keep 75% of the net, and we get 25% of the net proceeds from that. So that's why we're here tonight. We have been working with the Aqua Sox over the last 6 months or so as they've gone through the process. The amendment number 1 says that the school district has approval authority over the actual naming rights agreement, as well as the partner they select and the logo. So the terms and conditions of the agreement, I'll go over with you right now. I will say that I'm really kind of being selective about what I'm mentioning here, because there are quite a few terms and conditions between the Funco and the Aqua Sox that don't relate to the facilities of that the district owns. They have to do more with the promotions, the publicity, the events, the game nights, the activities, the branding, the logo that will be between those two entities. So I'm going to talk about how the terms and conditions affect the school district and the field that they're using. So the first thing is the new name will, assuming you approve this agreement, will be Funco Field at Everett Memorial Stadium. The Funco will be responsible for the graphic design and the logo, and also, I think, providing logo patches for the uniforms of the Aqua Sox. There will be advertising and promotional events offered at the facility. There's signage throughout the stadium that will be provided, including on the back of the video board, the big video board in left center field. There will be a sign on the back of that. As long as the city of Everett approves that, then that'll be part of what is included in the agreement. There's also in the agreement either signs or a figurine in right field, in the branding area in right field. I believe that is the Homer porch area that they're referring to. Also in center field, there will be a wall signs on the foul poles, field logos put into the field turf at home plate, first and third base, and then The overall, the installation and the permitting will be handled by Funco, and it will be subject to the approval of the Aquasox and the school district. So that's a quick overview of the terms and conditions as they affect us. The anticipated proceeds, and there's an asterisk there, and so what that means is that the Aquasox have they have an agreement term with us, and then they can do an extension that goes actually out for another 9 years. And so they have the same kind of an agreement extension with the Funco for the same time period. As long as all of those, the agreement is extended for the full term that is possible, then the amount that is built into the agreement is that Funco will be providing to the Aquasox just over $1 million, and the school district again will be getting 25% of that. And it's really important to understand that those amounts that you see up there represent the gross, the payment. We will need to reduce those amounts by the expenses that are incurred through the process. And with that, what I'd like to do is ask Danny Tetzloff, the general manager with the Aquasox, if he would like to come up and make some comments. Also, tonight we have Brian Mariotti, CEO of Funco, here tonight to make comments, if he's willing to do that as well. Hey, Danny.
Hey there. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the background and history on the naming rights proposal we've got here. When we signed up to help put in the turf field a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to go and find a community partner that wanted to put their name on the field, and we're very excited to be able to present Funco as our partner. We couldn't think of a better name or a better community partner to get involved with. Very unique. We're excited of what we're going to be able to do at the park. It's a win for everybody, for the school district, for the Aquasox, and for Funco, and we're just excited. Night at the ballpark will be even more fun with such an iconic partner to work with. So hopefully we can get your approval tonight. This Brian here behind me is with Funco. You want to say anything?
Sure. Yeah, we're excited, guys. It's not just naming rights. It's about creating amazing products for our millions of fans that will hopefully flock to Funco Field on Funco Fridays to get the freebies that we're getting away. And it's not the typical garbage that even the Mariners hand out, even though we hand out great stuff for the Mariners. Some of the stuff is pretty edgy they hand out. We're really working with Danny and his team to really create amazing moments at the stadium. We mentioned a figurine in the right field. It's a 16-foot statue that's going in the right field. So Funco does everything way over the top and ridiculous. And anyways, we're excited. So it's going to be an evolving process. We're committing dollars in cash, but more importantly, 7 really amazing nights every summer for fans all over Everett, and we think all over the Pacific Northwest are going to flock there to get the cool thing that we give away as a freebie. And as we all know, with the world of eBay, people probably selling it on eBay the second they get it for 10 times what it costs us to make, so which is exciting as well. So thank you. We love Everett, and this is just our way of kind of showing our continued support as we continue to grow as a company. So thanks.
With that, I will offer you an opportunity for discussion, comments, questions, and ultimately to consider approving this agreement.
Thank you. Directors, questions, comments? Director Lesane?
Yes. You mentioned one thing that I'm not quite sure I understand. Please give me some information regarding this. You said the video board, on the backside of the video board, will require the city of Everett to approve it. And in what way and how and what is the likelihood of them not approving that?
So the city of Everett approves signage that is visible beyond the stadium. And I'm leaving the approval process with Funco and the Aquasox to pursue. There was quite a discussion with the city when that video board was actually put up. So it'll be a permitting process that they'll have to go through.
And it isn't something with size matter or anything like that. I do understand on some signage I-5 and things like that, if it's a certain size, you cannot display it. Is it already at that junction, or could it be something that we'd have to take down and put up a new one because of the size?
I will leave all those questions up for the city to determine. They're the government. They're the jurisdiction that passes sign ordinances for the city, and then they basically enforce those. And they're responsible for the permitting process around that.
So, but we don't know in advance if we have to remanufacture anything so that it could be allowed to do that because
No, we
of the
don't.
size.
No, we
or
don't.
anything. We don't know that. Okay.
We don't.
But we're not manufacturing anything, are we?
No.
That's a good clarification.
No.
Funko is paying for all the signage.
Yes.
Before we even produce the signs, the city will approve, Danny will approve location, all scale, all that stuff. So nothing will be actually produced until the city signs off and Aquasox sign off.
Okay. So we're not responsible for any additional costs.
No, this per the agreement, the school district is not. The questions you were really asking about pertain to the, as I indicated, the responsibility for design, permitting, and installation and maintenance of those signs is the responsibility of the Aquasox from our perspective, but then between the two companies, either Funco or Aquasox would be paying for that. Not the school district.
Not the school district.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, if I can say, I know that the city of Everett was so excited that you all moved here. So I think this is a great partnership, and I do believe that I'm supporting this with all the Funco things that are in my house. Because my husband and daughter shop there frequently. So, but I just think it's a great representation for Everett, for that to be out here, you know, on Broadway, and for the school district to be a part of this. So I think it's wonderful.
No more comments? Okay. I can't really think of a better name than Funko Field at Everett Memorial
What
Stadium.
a neat name.
And on top of that, Funko Fridays. It's
From a
very
staff-
exciting. Yeah.
From a staff perspective, we were really excited with the name selection and the sponsor as well.
Yes,
That's
I agree.
fantastic.
So the recommended action is that the Board of Directors approve the event facility naming rights agreement for baseball field at Memorial Stadium between Seventh Inning Stretch LLC and Funko Incorporated. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Lissane to approve the motion, recommended action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe we need to rename our Learning Improvement Fridays.
Okay, we will take a 15-minute break, and I failed to mention that we have cake for Debbie, and we didn't want to eat dessert first, so the cake is,
Where's the cake?
oh, the cake is coming, so
Okay.
everyone help yourself.
So there's food in the
In the
little
pantry?
service area, and then we'll be wheeling the cake out. It'll take 3 people to move it.
Okay, oh my God, so we will take a 15-minute break and be back at about
Maybe we got new branding for
22. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. Moving on to 13.02, adoption of increase of appropriation in capital projects fund for fiscal year 2018-19. First reading. Mr. Moore.
Yes, thank you. And tonight we are, as you mentioned, in the two-step process of creating a budget extension for the Capital Projects Fund, similar to what we did in 2012 and 2015. I think we know that the Capital Projects Fund really is involved with major construction projects that happen over a number of years, and the cash flow projections in particular for this particular year, for 2017, anticipated additional monies being devoted to both Tambar Creek and North Middle School. And so as that work is really occurring in terms of when the contractor bills us in the 18-19 school year, it pushes our expected expenditures up by about $15 million. So in brevity, Tambar Creek, we're seeking to increase the appropriation associated with that project at $4,517,000. North Middle School at $10,591,000. Again, this raises the lid on appropriations for the remainder of the year. The total of that is $15,108,000. So our total appropriation would increase from $100,422,147 to $115,530,147. Just for procedurally, this is just like the budget process. We will be advertising next Tuesday and the following Tuesday, and at your April 9th meeting, we will have a brief open public hearing as we do. And unless there's any further questions, we recommend approval, or not approval. We recommend in 2-3 weeks that you approve this, but we just want to respond to any questions you might have for Mike or I.
Director Mason.
Can you please clarify for the directors, just to, that this is not increasing the budget for these projects, or
No.
that the projects are over cost, or
No,
any
that's
of that?
That's a very good clarification. No, it has nothing to do with the budget to actual. It only has to do with when the monies will be spent.
The timing issue.
It's all a timing issue.
But not
completely.
a project budget issue?
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to section 13.03, policy 2030, service animal in schools. First reading of a proposed revision.
So I'm going to, these are all 5-minute items, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and set the clock at 5 times the number of items for you.
Okay.
Well, good evening. Proposed revisions to Policy 2030 Service Animals in Schools reflect changes made to RCW 496214, making it a civil infraction under Chapter 780 RCW for any person to misrepresent an animal as a service animal. Recent legislation revised the definition of a service animal to be any dog or miniature horse, as discussed in RCW 496214, that is individually trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability, including a physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other mental disability. The work or tasks performed by the service animal must be directly related to the individual's disability. The revisions also add a civil penalty for the intentional misrepresentation of an animal as a service animal. The proposed revisions to Policy 2030 Service Animals in Schools have been reviewed by the Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Questions or comments? I had a question. Why the inclusion of miniature horse?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and so did everybody else who read this. Actually, in the federal code, it actually explicitly lists miniature horse as a service animal. That's why it's there.
Yes, I saw a news article on that, and it actually had a horse in the article. So that's why. No questions there. I just, a peacock or a bird, someone can't bring one of those in now that it's specific on dog or miniature horse and not animal. So I'm very happy with that move. Thank you.
That's great. Yep.
So could we actually accommodate a miniature horse in our schools?
I'm sure we would. There's a review through the procedure, a review process to that. So we would have to do a site
Thank you.
evaluation.
All right. We will move this to the next meeting for second reading.
Proposed revisions to policy 3200, students' rights and responsibilities, are minor in scope and to align with WASDA's model policy and in preparation for our annual revisions to the student rights and responsibilities document that is provided to all families at the start of each school year. Proposed revisions to 3200, student rights and responsibilities, have been previously reviewed by legal counsel in the superintendent's cabinet.
Questions or comments? We'll move this for second reading at the next meeting. (13.05) Policy 3241.
Yeah, revisions to policy 3241, student driving bicycles, wheeled recreational vehicles, or recreational devices, stem from concern expressed by school administrators regarding the practice of students being transported from school using third-party ride-sharing services. For example, parents who are not able to pick up their student from school have made arrangements for ride-share service, such as Uber or Lyft, to transport their student. In researching this concern, General Counsel discovered that Uber and Lyft have internal policies that prohibit underage riders from riding unless they're accompanied by somebody who is older than 18 years of age. As a result, language has been proposed to Policy 3241 that prohibits students from leaving district campuses using third-party ride-sharing services unless the student is accompanied by that parent guardian. We also propose changing the title from student driving bicycles, title from student driving bicycles, wheeled recreational devices to non-district provided transportation. And just as a cross-reference for the board's information, we have a policy 3441, release of students during the school day. In that procedure under Section E, is specifically that we do not allow to release students during the school day unless it's directly to a parent guardian that's been authorized. Also, RCW 28A60510, removing a child from school grounds under school hours, is the foundation for why we do not release students to a ride-sharing or third-party ride-sharing organization. It would violate that. So,
Director Mason?
I had asked you previously about an older sibling that's 18 or older taking a younger sibling and calling Uber or Lyft. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that if that older sibling was on record as an individual that someone could be released to, that then they could pick up a younger under 18 student and be transported by Uber or Lyft if they were approved. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so, and this is similar to if a neighbor or a close friend wants to pick up kids for someone else, they need to be on the approved list.
And over the age of 18, yes.
Yeah, but Uber can't be on that list.
No, because we do not have the release information for the driver. That's right.
Okay, just clarifying everything. Thank you.
And I have one comment. This sort of caught me by surprise because I wasn't sure what the practice was. So I did do my family survey, and they both went, "No way would we ever allow like her or any of her friends to get in a car." And so I was like, okay, well, that confirmed this, sometimes you know who our measure is. So it was, this is interesting that this came up, but it seems like it's probably timely given the recent incident of something.
I wanted to clarify the language here. The third paragraph, the paragraph that reads, "The board takes the safety and security of its students seriously and therefore prohibits students from leaving district campuses during the school day, e.g. school-sponsored events, after-school clubs, extracurricular activities." I know that reads during the school day, but then the e.g. is, for example, school-sponsored events, after-school clubs. I'm wondering if that should read including rather than for example, because it, to me, is confusing with defining school day and giving also extra clarification of when it's not acceptable.
Okay, I can make that revision for second read. Would you prefer, for example, or such as?
Well, I think including is because it's in addition to the school day, correct? Yeah.
And one of the key points, and you make a good point, Director Andrews, is district campuses during the school day. One of the questions that came up in Policy Review Council was, what if we are at a dance, like a prom off-site? That's not school district property. It's not during the school day, even though it is school-sponsored. Therefore, we're not releasing them from district obligated property, right? We're releasing them from somewhere else. And then it would be appropriate. It's not something we could easily regulate either in those situations. So I appreciate the comment, and I'll make the adjustment for second read.
Okay. Okay, we'll move it to the next meeting for second reading. Moving on to 13.06.
Proposed revisions to Policy 4411, Working Relationships with Law Enforcement, Child Protective Services, and County Health Department, are from WASDA to clarify the district's relationships with different agencies based on their respective roles and responsibilities. While maintaining a strong cooperative working relationship with law enforcement, child protection agencies, and our local health department makes practical sense to the operations and service of our students, the work of immigration agents does not overlap with the work or duties of the school district. Therefore, the revisions of this policy specifically address and distinguishes immigration agents from our other relationships with professional and governmental agencies. And as I've scrolled down into the revisions here, in particular on page 2, the last 2 paragraphs is highlighting the difference of immigration agents and how that relationship in our with them is very different than other governmental agencies. The proposed revisions to Policy 4411, Working Relationships with Law Enforcement, Child Protective Services, and the County Health Department, have been reviewed by the Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Comments or questions?
I just appreciate the clarity here because of the question that comes up and the concern of families. So thank you.
I agree. We'll move this for second reading. Policy 6000.
The revisions to Policy 6000, Program Planning, Budget Preparation, Adoption, and Implementation comply with the state requirements in Chapter 28A, 505 RCW, School Districts Budgets, that districts develop or update four-year budgets as part of their annual budget development process. These revisions have been previously reviewed by Legal Counsel and the Superintendent's Cabinet.
Questions or comments, directors? Okay, we will move this for second reading at the next meeting.
And our final policy revision to be proposed tonight is Policy 6230, Relations with Vendors, which includes language that board members, administrators, and staff are prohibited from soliciting a gift or favor from vendors, prospective vendors, other firms, or individuals who have had or hope to have transactions with the district. This revision will help districts in an audit or program review. These revisions align to current board policies 1610, conflicts of interests, and also in the 5000 series 5215, conflicts of interests for district employees. The proposed revisions to policy 6230, relations with vendors, have been previously reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
Can I ask a question? Like Board Docs is a vendor, but when we go to NSBA, we go to their event. Is there a conflict there? Because we are receiving, food, beverages. I wonder what the clarity is. If there is, I just want clarification.
Sure, we'll check with council on that.
Okay.
I think
I
in
have the
that
same
case,
question.
they're a sponsor of the event, so we are just attending the event.
But they're a
Now that the-
vendor and
now
they're
that the-
paying for it.
Now that the question's been asked in an open public meeting, we're going to check with council, and you'll get an answer.
Yeah, I just,
So we will need to discuss this at the next meeting before.
just clarity.
Okay.
No, it has nothing to do with the policy. It has to do with your decisions related to the policy.
Okay, true. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, we will move this for second reading the next meeting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to section 14, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Cohn?
All right, 14.1 is your special meeting scheduled for March 21. It's actually the 7th grade business expo at Eisenhower. And I think several of you were planning to go to that, and we weren't entirely sure exactly who would be going or how many of you. So we're publishing the meeting in case 3 of you actually show up.
I'm attending the Port Gardner open house that evening, so I don't know if other directors are planning to do one or the other or neither, but.
Who plans to go to that?
I plan on going to both.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Get out of my meeting in time.
All right. Yeah, well, it's sort of like,
Might as well.
we're not entirely sure, but just in case 3 of you are observed in that thing, together, we want to be able to say we published it. Special meeting, March 27 is your superintendent profile work with Rain Associates. I believe that one is a morning meeting. Item 14.3 is your special meeting, March 29. It's actually March 29 through 30, 31, 32, whatever. You're going to be at the NSBA annual conference, and we sort of start a rolling special meeting to make sure we've covered you, right? Item 14.4 is your next regular meeting. It's April 9. It is the only regular meeting during the month, and it is a bruiser. You have strategic progress monitoring items, high school readiness, 21st century skills. You have second reading on all the policies that you reviewed today. And I think, Larry, are we going to maybe see another first reading or two at that meeting? Yes, which isn't on here, but heads up. And then you've got general operating business. You've got a second quarter financial report. You've got the several agreements for instructional services delivered by others, particularly through the Northwest Educational Service District. You have a number of consent agenda items, including the auditor's reports, assuming they're done on time, your February financials, your high school science lab architect selection, the call for bids for Woodside's modernization. Then you'll also have second reading and a public hearing on the capital budget extension. And the facility user fees for Memorial Stadium will be on that agenda as well. User fees take one reading, not two. It's essentially a subpart of a policy. You have two recognition items. You're going to have a performance at the beginning of the meeting by the Everett High School Drama Club. I believe the musical is Grease, so it will be lively. And then you also have your Prodigies for Peace Award winners, which is a follow-on from the Martin Luther King event and is sponsored by the NAACP. We will be providing students, sort of in a large group, certificates, and they'll be introduced to you. We don't intend for all the art to be displayed or the poems to be read, but if we can get them and publish them, put them on the website, we'd be delighted to do that. And that is your meeting schedule for the rest of this month and into April.
Thank you. We'll start resting up for that April 9th meeting, sounds like.
Yeah, get a good night's sleep, will you?
Moving on to section 15.01 or 15.0, we will move into a closed session after the meeting adjourns this evening to discuss parameters of collective bargaining. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting.
Fabulous. Thank you.